Reggie there? Reggie's a listener. Hold on. I guess I got to share this out. Hold on. We are live on Twitter Spaces. Reggie, is that you?
Oh, you got Rishi.
Rishi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're making history here on Twitter Spaces.
We sure are.
I just tweeted it out. Gonna do some retweets here. Welcome everybody. This is an audio experience on Twitter live. I just watched the Sony State of Play, as many of you guys probably did, and we're just going to kind of experiment here and see what this is like. Reggie's been kind enough to join us, and I'm just going to just do one more tweet. Going to multitask here. All right, cool. Retweeting now. So how we doing, Rishi? Good?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
It's been a busy day. Busy day.
Busy.
How about
I
you,
know.
Geoff?
Busy day for Twitter. You've got. I saw the super follow coming.
Yes. Very exciting stuff. I can't say much more than what we've already shared, so I definitely recommend checking out the stuff that we've shared from the investor relations handle, as well as the recent article we dropped on the New York Times as well.
All right, we will. Reggie, you there?
I'm here. I've been here. I've been listening. I've been trying to figure out how to enable myself to speak, which has never been a problem in the past, but I figured it out.
Reggie always has something to say. Well, welcome to Twitter Spaces. We are live here with folks joining us from across Twitter, and yeah, this is a new thing. I hear all these little clicks. So these are people joining, I guess. There's an audio click every time someone joins. Interesting.
Yes.
All right. Well, there's lots of clicking, so people are joining quickly. So how are we doing, Reggie? You're up in Seattle?
I am up in Seattle, doing well. Been watching the Sony event and getting some work done as well. So it's all is good.
That's great. Yeah, Sony had their state of play just about 2 hours ago. It's been a busy couple weeks for video game events because there was Nintendo Direct last week and state of play this week. And yeah, it's interesting. The thing that I've found, and I put these polls up on my Twitter account that everyone probably sees, where people grade events. And Reggie knows back in the day on TV, I always used to grade the Nintendo events and others, but fans have been pretty harsh graders, I would say, Reggie. I look at the last three polls I did were Nintendo Direct, BlizzCon, and State of Play, and it's been like people giving like C's and D's. And I'm curious to get your take just generally on I remember you always used to tell me that fans had insatiable appetites for new video game news and announcements, and I definitely get the sense that the community really wants a lot out of these companies right now, and in a COVID world, it's really, I think, difficult to develop games. So I'm curious to get your take on kind of like fan expectations in general, since you dealt with that for over a decade at Nintendo.
Well, look, so here's what's interesting, right? Fans do have high expectations. And in the absence of any guidance by the platform holder, the fans are going to want everything. I mean, I didn't see the numerical grades either for the Nintendo event, which I watched. I saw all of the Blizzard event announcements beforehand. I did not watch BlizzCon itself. I had something else going on. I did watch the Sony event. I'd be interested in what those grades were. I could certainly comment on I think the challenges in this time of COVID of just how do you communicate to your fan base in a way that makes sense. It's a challenge.
Yeah, no, that's we saw sort of, at least on my Twitter, it was people giving C's or D's or disappointment. And I think you're right. You zeroed in on something that is absolutely correct. It's like managing the expectations, right? Because sometimes with these events, these game companies are like, tune in for a showcase, and sometimes Nintendo will say games coming the first half of this year, or Sony. I mean, they'll put some context around it because people's imaginations go wild. But sometimes even when they do that, the expectation is all these other things might sort of appear in these events, and the internet, people always like to speculate on things that may not even exist, but there's sort of a hope. And I think what happens is there's this hope created, and then people ultimately sort of set themselves up to be hyped and then disappointed about things. And I said, the Nintendo fans over the years, they're always expecting announcements that they hope will happen, but don't always come to fruition. But I think you're right. It really is about the management of fan expectations and kind of what you say leading in. But do you think some of these events, do you think they should be more sort of descriptive leading in of what to expect? Of like, sometimes when I do events, we even say specifically like these are the games you're going to see. And the news is what's actually shown on the game versus this, sort of blank canvas of anything could show up. I know sometimes, you had to deal with that at Nintendo too about, what the fans want to see versus what's actually going to be there.
Well, look, I think you're always better off being clear and sharing as much information as you can without giving everything away, but being as clear as you can as to what you're going to see, what you're going to experience. You're always going to be better off. You need to be thoughtful about timing as well, right? So when
Yeah.
Nintendo's event happened right around the time of the Zelda anniversary, guess what happens?
Right.
Fans expect some sort of Zelda announcement, and
Yeah.
there were a couple, but it drives expectation. For the Sony event today, look, people expected information on, Horizon Zero West and some other key games, and by not having it, it creates disappointment. So I told you this in the past, Geoff. In many ways, a platform holder can't win, but trying to manage expectations as well as look, you got to give them you got to give them a surprise. You have to give the fans something to latch onto. Otherwise, you're going to drive disappointment.
Yeah, that you said. I think I've learned that over the years of my shows is exactly you got to have that one more thing. And Nintendo, kind of even had that with Splatoon 3, which I
Yes.
think people did not expect, and even that was sort of not enough for the audience. And yeah, I think that's the thing is I always remember your quote about the insatiable appetite of sort of you can announce 5 games, but when people expect 10, it's sort of it's not enough, right? And it's difficult for a lot of these companies, as you said, in a work from home environment where from your work, obviously, with game companies and some of the studios you're working with now, it feels like the COVID work from home environment has really affected development. And I was talking to someone last week at one of the major studios, and they were saying that last year, the games that were coming out last year were able to sort of be finished at kind of what they said 80% productivity because they were in the final stages of quality assurance and being finished up. So we got a lot of games that came out last year. And they were saying that now games that are kind of mid development, productivity has dropped to 50% or as low as 20% on some projects because it's very difficult to collaboratively build a video game from home and do things like motion capture and record an orchestra. And I've heard one developer in Japan even told me that they almost have lost a year in development because of the work from home situation, which is much more difficult in Japan than it is here in the West, where people have computers at home and just a little bit more accessible environments to build games. I'm curious, and you may see this a little bit from the GameStop perspective and some of the companies you're working with. Do you think that the industry is going to slow down a little bit this year in terms of new releases, or I'm curious to get your take on that?
So a number of things, and look, I'm sharing all of this as a fan with no inside information.
Don't affect any stock prices today.
I have no inside information on what I'm saying. But look, a few things. First, people don't understand how collaborative game development is. It is tremendously collaborative. The animation teams, the graphics teams, the writers, the folks deep in the code. It is a truly collaborative process. And when you can't be, nearby and have those instant conversations, it's incredibly challenging. It's incredibly challenging. Second, there are areas of the world where the ability to work remotely is much more challenged. You mentioned Japan. It is an incredibly challenging environment. We take for granted here in the US, everyone has a PC. They've got their own computer plus the equipment they have at the office. That's not the case for many Japanese companies. So that's a bit of a challenge. So collaboration is key, and you're not getting as effective collaboration in this time of COVID. Will there be fewer games released this year versus last year? I can't say,
Right.
but I can tell you that it is really, really hard to put out a triple A level game and have the performance you want in this current environment. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, no, and I've found that too in working with developers around Game Awards and other events. Sometimes the fan expectation is we all want things to be more normal, but all of our worlds have been dramatically changed over the past year, and it has really affected game release dates. And we've seen some things moving. I saw even Sony, I think last week, announced Gran Turismo was moving back a year to 2022, and I think we'll hear about other things in the coming weeks and months that maybe shifted a little bit.
So,
But you're
so,
right.
so now, Geoff, I'm going to ask you a question,
Yeah,
right?
go.
So the game's shifting. Is it a development challenge or is it an install base challenge? Because
Yeah.
you and I both know, the number of new consoles sold to date versus you look at historical numbers for the first 4 months or so of a new system,
Yep.
and the numbers are down.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of hypotheses as to why. It's certainly not a demand issue, but are companies making a decision just
Yeah.
to have a larger installed base to sell into?
Yeah, look, I think it's probably, I don't know the answer, but I think it's a combination of those factors. You said, limited supply of new consoles, COVID, and, people running the calculus. I was talking to one team just the other day, and I think they were saying it's like, you know, they could maybe make it this year, but if you delay, the game gets better. There's a larger install base, as you said. There are a bunch of pros to that, and there are some cons to, as you said, sort of getting things out near term, and also, the competition now for playtime is really really intense, especially with things like Game Pass and some of these other free to play games. I mean, to get people to spend money on a title is very challenging, and I think especially in the wake of Cyberpunk and things like that, I think everyone's being very cautious about when they're fully ready to get things out. So yeah, I think you're right, it's a combination of things. And there will be, like, Ratchet and Clank for PS5 is coming out in June. That's a PS5 exclusive game, and Sony, it looks amazing, and Sony's able to sort of, forward invest in that game in a way to showcase PS5. But you're right, a lot, we're seeing a lot of that now of upgraded games coming from PS4 to PS5, and some of the newer titles maybe pushing out a little bit farther, seeing more cross generational games. I'm curious, do you think like Game Pass as an example, and some of these other services, Sony today even announced, Oddworld, the new Oddworld game is going to be a free game in April for PS Plus members. They announced in March the Ratchet and Clank game is free. It seems like we're in the mode now of, you know, service focus from some of these platforms of kind of giving free games to fans on the platform. Do you think that, I assume it will to some degree affect demand for new things, but I'm curious to get your take on, Game Pass and some of these other services, how it's going to affect sort of the demand curve for brand new games.
I've got two different thoughts. So first, Game Pass and things of that nature, I think that is a very interesting business model. And I've got to give kudos to my friend Phil and the team there at Xbox. I think they are doing a lot of very interesting things from a business model standpoint, in trying to get to this quote unquote Netflix of games type of proposition. Um, that said, I don't think Game Pass per se, or Sony's version of it, is going to change the appetite for content. Meaning, if there's great content and it's something that consumers want to play, they are going to make time for it, right? And so the mechanism by which I get access, whether it's a service or whether it's an individual game, all of that, in my view, doesn't matter. It's about the content. It's about the quality of the content. It's about the ability for the content to hook me in and to
Yep.
continue to surprise me with new experiences, new in-game events, whatever it may be. That's what drives my consumption, and that's true whether it's for a game like Animal Crossing or a mobile experience or something else. So, um, this business is a $200 billion business. The second in entertainment, only to sports. Everything, all sports related. And what that means is that people are playing a ton of games. They want to have great experiences. And things like Game Pass, in my view, are simply just a different delivery mechanism. People want to play their favorite games. They want to play it as soon as they can.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's increasing, the number of titles we can sample. I think there's a lot of games that people may not, would never pay sort of full price or even half price for, but will sample in Game Pass.
I think that is very true. And again, as a mechanism to drive sampling, something like Game Pass is brilliant. It gives me the opportunity to test something out that I never would have bought before. I agree, but again, as that platform is put out there, I do think they're learning in the end, what does it mean from a monetization standpoint? And certainly as they've tried to monetize Game Pass vis-a-vis Xbox Live and figuring out what's the right amount to charge in total for that consumer who wants it all, and figuring that out, I think is going to be a huge challenge.
Well, it seems like you're definitely keeping your finger on the pulse of the industry, which is what I love to see. I mean, I'm sure people listening here, and we got thousands of people listening in, I'm sure just curious, like, what is your life like now as Reggie? I mean, they follow you on Twitter, probably. If you don't, it's at Reggie. And I think people sometimes see, mentions of you being on boards and whatnot. But for people that may not fully know the Reggie story, like what's your life like right now?
My life continues to be incredibly busy. When I retired from Nintendo, I made it clear that I was going to find other ways to be engaged in the broader business world, right? I call myself a business provocateur. I ask a lot of questions. I push on a lot of issues. I am still close to the games business. I've got a passion for this business. Certainly my board position with GameStop keeps me close to the business. I work as an advisor to other small companies in the gaming space. So I continue to be very informed about this space. I also am a board director for two additional companies beyond GameStop. And one is a toy company. Interestingly, a toy company that reminds me a lot of Nintendo.
Spin Master, right?
Yeah, Spin Master.
Yep.
Very innovative. Some great franchises. Let's be clear, these franchises skew younger than the prototypical consumer in the video game space. But Paw Patrol, Bakugan, I mean, some pretty strong franchises that they are taking not only to physical play, but digital play, as well as movies and other forms of entertainment. They launched some big properties on Netflix that are doing incredibly well. So a highly innovative, uh, intellectual property driven company that I'm just thrilled to be on their board. And then in the broader leisure space, I'm on the board of Brunswick Corporation. And Brunswick
Sea Ray
is
Boats.
Sea Ray Boats, Boston Whaler Boats, and Mercury Marine Engines. So it's a pure play in the marine space. You know my passion for the water. I love the water. I'm a scuba diver. So this is just another way to apply my knowledge, my business experience in an area that I have a passion for, and I'll continue to do things like this. In addition, I spend time with my alma mater, Cornell University. I believe in giving back and helping others be successful. I'm writing in the morning every day. Maybe it'll lead to a book. We'll see. But there's some creative projects that I'm working on. So my days continue to be incredibly busy, which is the way I want it.
And you mentioned boats. Should we tell people the name of your boat? Can we break that?
We can tell the name of my current boat.
Yes.
Now that I'm on the Brunswick board, I've got to get a bigger boat, as they said in that Jaws movie.
What is the name of your current boat, Reggie?
The name of my current boat is Midna.
There you go.
Nice reference to Zelda. It's funny. I told this to in one of my last dinners with Mr. Miyamoto. I showed him a picture of my boat, and I asked him. I said, Mr. Miyamoto, I hope you're okay that I called my boat Midna. And he chuckled. He himself loves the water, and is a bit of a fisherman. And Ayanuma was also in the same dinner. And he said, I'm fine with it, Reggie-san, but you need to go ask Mr. Ayanuma if he's okay with you calling the boat Midna. So, but yes, as everyone knows, I've got a passion for the Zelda franchise, and the boat reflects that.
Yes, 35th anniversary of Zelda. I guess it was it on Sunday, I think, or something. I remember.
It was on Sunday.
Which is amazing.
Sunday. I tweeted it out, and on one hand, I got a lot of love, and on the other hand, I got a lot of grief. People were saying, Reggie, why are you doing this, and why isn't Nintendo doing it? It's like, boy, don't get mad at me for that, please.
Yes, no, it's it's amazing. It's been 35 years, and obviously, you know how it is. Last year, obviously, so much excitement around the Mario anniversary. I think people were hoping that there would be a similar Zelda thing, and the year has only started, right? And that's the other thing is that, but it was a little odd because you said that Sunday is such a monumental day for many of us that grew up on those games and those franchises. One thing I know, there's a little bit of headlines last week. You were talking a little bit about E3, which is something that you and I had, done together for many, many years. Fans may remember you and I had some famous battles at E3 starting back, I think.
And who won the majority of those battles, Geoff? Just to be clear. I did.
Yes, you did. Well, we told this story before, but what happened was the first year, I think it was 2005 or so, we played Wii Sports at the booth.
It was 2000. It was 2006. If we're going to tell the story, we got to tell it correctly. It was 2000. Right. It was 2006.
Yes, exactly. So we played.
This was the E3 where we unveiled the Wii.
Yes.
And I had been going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and all of a sudden, I'm there with Geoff Keighly, playing Wii Sports tennis, right? Or was it bowling?
No. First we did was you got to tell the story right, Reggie. We started with tennis. So we started with tennis, and we played each other in tennis, and then I was victorious in that match, which we aired on television. And then the next time was for then we did bowling. That was for the launch of the Wii. We filmed that in San Francisco, I remember, in an actual bowling alley, and I think you won that one.
I won that one. Exactly. I won that one.
And then what happened after that was, I have no idea when I was going to compete in Reggie, and Nintendo would claim, it was very confidential. We can't tell you anything about the game. So I think the next year at E3 might have been, maybe was it Wii Sports Resort or something? I think we did sword fighting, right?
I think it was Wii Sports Resort. We did sword fighting. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where it started, is like I walk into the room and be handed a controller. I've never seen the game. I don't know the control scheme. And Reggie's been practicing for weeks probably back in the office.
That's not true. That's not true. See, now you're crying because I beat you. So, but
you had more practice. Would you agree that you had more practice than I did?
I probably did.
Exactly.
I probably did.
But no, it was a fun. Anyways, we talk about that because we had a lot of fun over all those years of an amazing time at E3 together, covering the industry, and obviously with COVID and everything going on, there's been a lot of changes to just gaming events in general, right across the spectrum. Even PAX that you and I would visit in Seattle, that was changed. And there were some quotes. I think you were on Gamertag Radio a few weeks ago talking about your sort of thoughts on E3, and obviously this is a subject close to my heart because I went to every E3 for 25 years and decided last year that was going to sort of go off on a different path. But I'm curious to get your take. Not here to necessarily just focus on E3, but sort of events for games in general and where that's going. And we were talking about this Sony event and these digital events, but I know you gave some quotes that really talked about how you were concerned about kind of the trajectory that E3 appeared to be on. And I'm curious to get your take on, the event space. And you did some amazing Nintendo press conferences, right? Everyone remembers, kicking ass and taking names and some of those legendary press conferences. Do you think is there still a place for those big, in-person, press conference keynote events in the industry?
I do, and let me break this down into a few different parts. So
Yeah,
first, I think that E3 is a tremendous asset,
agreed.
and what I call E3 is that limited time frame, 3 or 4 days, when the industry comes together, breaks news, dominates the conversation on a global basis. There is nothing like that across the world of entertainment, not in terms of a multi-day domination of the conversation. So that's incredibly powerful. To me, what makes E3 work is that it is a limited time. It is a situation where all the companies are participating.
Agreed.
And third, that there is a play element, and it needs to be a first to play element, meaning it's an opportunity for fans to play that first, fill in the blank game. First, new iteration of Halo, first new iteration of Mario, first new iteration of Zelda, whatever it may be. But that first to play element is so critically important because later on in the year, there are other events where games are shown, but being first to play is critically important. I do believe that E3 can be reinvented in a digital space and candidly needs to be because there's a huge opportunity to touch more than the 60,000 people or so that can make it to a convention center to experience what was E3. So, as I talked on that Gamertag Radio podcast, a global event where all of the platform holders participate, they make their games available for a limited time, play access, I think is a huge opportunity. And I believe that the ESA needs to figure out how to do this, or some smart entrepreneurial guy like Geoff Keighly will figure it out and deliver it to the marketplace.
Well,
Um,
yeah. I mean, it's just such a complicated situation, and again, I haven't talked a lot publicly about it, but might as well here. But yeah, as you said, it's you know the E3 event is put on by the Entertainment Software Association that all the game companies are members of, and one of the reasons I really felt last year that I couldn't be a part of is it's so important to have all the companies unite, right? And that's what I'm proud about with Game Awards is that we have, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, EA, Activision, on, all participating. And it's really, E3 is kind of a cover band of the whole E3 if we can't get all the game companies together to unite around it. So that was something that I'm very passionate about, of finding a way for everyone to kind of unite. And it's difficult when, as you said, it has to make this big pivot, right, from a traditional, trade show into something more consumer oriented, more digital oriented. It's sort of what I went through a little bit with the Game Awards. People may remember that used to be a television show, and kind of transitioned it to digital, and we had to start a brand new thing. So yeah, I'm with you that. There's no bigger fan than me of the E3 event, but the idea of what E3 has to represent is everyone coming together in this really magical moment for the industry. So, yeah, I
I,
agree
I,
with you.
I have to say, for me, what's somewhat disappointing is, arguably last year with the way COVID came on, it would have been a really difficult pivot for the industry to truly put on 100% digital E3.
Yep.
But we've been in this unfortunately now for a full year, and as a fan, it's disappointing that there isn't going to be a digital E3 that galvanizes the industry, dominates the conversation for 3 to 4 days, gives me an opportunity to play first these games. This should have been planned 4 years ago. Because look, I'm not the sharpest tool in the drawer, but no one should have anticipated that we would be back to full conventions, given where we are with this pandemic. So it's a missed opportunity. And look, I can say it as a fan. Right now I'm missing the opportunity to play all of these new games and this new content that typically might happen at a GDC, that would certainly happen at an E3. It's a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree with you. And I even for me personally, I sort of finished Game Awards and I was hoping to hear that everything was all set for this year and we could come back to strong E3, and that didn't seem to be in the cards, which, as you said, is unfortunate. And look, it's very difficult to get. I mean, you were on the board of the ESA, to get everyone aligned around, all agreeing to something. But I do think when I talk to everyone individually, there's really interest, as you said, in the industry coming together. And I see some of fans, on my Twitter or an email are always saying, like, we need E3 to come back. And it's like, yes, we absolutely do. But, the E3 you remember is everyone participating in this big moment together. And if it's not going to be that, it's not really E3. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's so exciting. I mean, it's like I said, I set my whole year around those moments and those do you have out of all those press events you did over the years, do you have one that stands out to you still? I mean, people remember some of the, Body is Ready and, things like that. But for you personally, is there one that you hold closest to your heart?
I mean, look, I participated. I have to go back and do the number, but the fact that I was at Nintendo, over 15 years, let's make the assumption I did 15 E3s.
Yeah.
Each one was different. Each one was unique. Each one had its, extremely high points. Each one had missed opportunities. So, when I'm asked this question, I always revert back to my first E3, because that was a momentous event for me personally, for the company. The reaction obviously was incredible and unanticipated. But the unveiling of the Wii, I mean, I still have visions of the last day at that E3. And Geoff, you and I know, typically those were the days where E3 ran Wednesday through Friday.
Yep. Yeah.
And oftentimes executives would, especially retailing executives, would stop participating on Thursday night. So they might give away their pass to some fan who was waiting to try and score a pass into E3. So on the Friday, it would typically be a lot more, let me call it a prosumer, right? So not quite a pure consumer, someone around the industry, but someone who scored a pass in some unique way. And I could remember that Friday of that E3, where there was a huge crowd gathered in the lobby. The doors open, and I have to say this, they run past the Sony booth to start lining up to get a chance to play Wii. And it was a stampede. You could see it on YouTube. Just Google Wii Stampede and you'll find the video. And it was just shocking to see. And I could see it because we would have a multi-tier booth. I'm looking out to where these doors open, and this sea of humanity that just comes running in to start lining up to play the Wii. That was super. When we unveiled the 3DS at a press conference, and that was one of our last full press conferences. And we went right from the presentation to having demos there at the time at the Dolby Theater. Was it? No, it wasn't that. It was the old.
No, Microsoft Theater, Nokia.
Yeah, it's Nokia. It's Nokia, what is now Microsoft Theater. But we had demonstrators there for everyone to demo and see the reality that was glasses free 3D.
Was like attached to them. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So each one was unique and special, and even the ones that you were involved in with robot chicken Reggie and laser
Yep.
beams coming out of my eyes. Each one was special and fun.
Was there ever a catchphrase or line that didn't make it? Like, I'm curious. Obviously there was "My name is Reggie." Kicking ass, taking names. But were there rejected lines that we never heard? Like, I'm curious, like how that all went about of finding those phrases.
Well, the thing is that some of the lines were planned, right? So my name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass, taking names. We're about making games. That was scripted, planned, went through a variety of evolutions, but that was planned. My body is ready, completely unplanned. During rehearsals, I was testing out different lines, and what fans don't understand is that when you're preparing for an event like this, you go through hours and hours of rehearsals. And I was just trying different lines to make Mr. Miyamoto laugh. And he happened to laugh at that line. So I kept using it. I tried other things as well. But in the event, I went with "My body is ready," and the rest is history. So um, I can't think of any lines that I tried out or things that I said that we ended up not using. A lot of it, it would just happen. When we showed off We Sports Resort with the enhanced motion capabilities of the Wii Remote Plus, and I was in a 3-point basketball game against Bill Trinan.
Yeah.
During rehearsals, he beat me every time, every time. And when we did it live on the big stage, I beat him with the final shot. He had gone through his rack of basketballs. There was still time on the clock for me. If I made the 3-pointer, I won, and I made it, and I won. And he was like, "What's going on?" I had lost every single time before. So it's all the magic of live TV, live experiences.
Well, no, there were so many legendary moments. We miss you on stage, and he said, for me even, I mean, some of those years at Nintendo E3. I mean, and even Wii Music. I remember when Mr. Miyamoto was there at the Dolby
Mm-hmm.
Theater, and him in his tuxedo, and yeah, it's so many incredible memories over the years. I miss that, right? And I hope we'll get back to that at some point in the future. We miss you even being on stage, although luckily we've gotten you every year at Game Awards, which has been fun. And thank you for joining us last year from Seattle to present the Accessibility Award. That was great. So we'll have to keep your perfect attendance streak up, hopefully.
Good. I look forward to it. Look forward to continuing to do something fun and something interesting. And look, never say never. Who knows when we are back to doing physical events? And we didn't get to this point. I do believe there's a role for physical events.
I agree.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm not I'm
absolutely.
not in that mindset that says everything's got to be digital. I think physical events that are engaging, that bring forward new and different experiences, that do have an element for worldwide audiences to participate,
Yeah.
those still play a role. So, who knows? Maybe
Oh,
maybe I'll participate in some of those.
yeah. No, I agree. And that's one thing that we missed even from Game Awards last year. It's like, even though the show was even bigger than ever in terms of the total audience, I missed the magic of the year before with the Xbox reveal and the crowd, sort of being shocked, or even you and I when we were part of the Joker reveal for Smash. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was a pretty spectacular moment for you and I to be standing on the sidelines, and fans to have never see it coming. That was a pretty special moment too. I remember that with you, and that was knowing that it started with Joker, and no one knew it was going to be a Smash reveal, and that was pretty fun too.
It was, and look, people still talk about that moment on stage, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony coming together with the
Yes,
the senior leaders. That was a moment. That was a great moment. And kudos to you.
thank
You and
you.
I know the story of how it all came about,
Yes.
but kudos to you to actually pull it off.
Thank you. No, that was it was really important to me because I think by then, we had known, actually going back to E3, we kind of knew that Sony, I think it's already said that they probably weren't going to do the E3 in the next year, and I remember that was even more important for me to get everyone on stage, and yeah, it was. I mean, it was right down to the wire. I remember that day, like Sean Layden was flying in, and his flight was delayed, and we were worried. What happens if he doesn't make it, because I think it was rainy in LA that day, and it was so many things had to come together to make that moment on stage. And certainly, one day we'll tell the story of all the the politics and the approvals involved in how that happened. And I'm so glad, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It happened. And I still remember you and I were out at dinner in New York, I think, hanging out with, I think we were hanging out with Wolfgang Puck in New York. And we were
That's right.
talking
That's
about,
right. And we made that first fateful phone call to get it all started.
Exactly. That all started when we were in dinner in New York and you were wearing your Metroid shirt, and then I tweeted it out and the internet went crazy. But that was the dinner, actually, where people thought we were talking about Metroid. We were actually talking about this moment of getting everyone together, and you were instrumental in saying maybe this is the year it could happen, because that's something I had wanted to do since the very first show in 2014. So yeah, very special to have that happen, and speaks to, I think, what we all feel like, and everyone in this room hopefully feels, that this industry is better when we're all together and united. And you were certainly an amazing part of uniting the industry, and I always thought you did such a great job. Not only leading Nintendo, but I think leading the industry and its role in popular culture and entertainment. And that's something that, you're still doing an amazing job even today. I think what you're doing with the New York Critics Circle, you did a great job hosting that awards, the New York Game Awards in New York. And it's nice to hear that you're thinking about, you mentioned you're writing in the morning. What are you writing? Are you kind of just thoughts about gaming, or I'm curious sort of like, where your head's at right now in terms of what you're thinking of?
Sure. So look, as I said earlier, right? So I am a business provocateur. So I am constantly thinking about broad business issues. I continue to be highly engaged in issues here in Washington State. So I mean, we're talking social issues,
Mm-hmm.
social justice issues, economic issues at a broad level. I'm heavily involved in. I'm involved in thinking about what it takes to be a future leader, and not just a business leader, but a community leader, and capturing thoughts about that. I'm capturing thoughts about innovation. How can you help an organization be innovative in their space, whatever their space may be, whether it's a food products company or a marine company or a video game company? How do you instill a culture of innovation? These are topics that I speak at in private events, and I'm capturing these thoughts. And maybe it will become a book. Maybe it'll be some sort of business memoir, a little bit about me personally, a little bit about what I believe in business. So that's what I'm doing, and it's hard work capturing this and making it make sense, and having it maybe be something that people would want to read or listen to as an audiobook. But it's something that I've got a passion for. I believe I've got experiences to share, and so thinking about how I do that is very important to me.
Have you ever thought about making a game? Does that appeal to you at all?
No, candidly, no.
Reggie's Adventures, or I don't know, you have an RTS you want to make or something? I didn't think so.
And look, I say this because I've seen what it takes to be a world-class game maker. I mean, I've seen early builds from the teams at Nintendo and some of the associated companies that made content for Nintendo platforms that I was associated with. I've seen what it takes. And while I have ideas and I can, I can share thoughts or value, but for me personally, to make a game, I don't see it. Do I see potentially, providing, perspective and guidance to some upstart venture in the broad gaming and entertainment space? Maybe, that's something that I find interesting. But I'm not I'm a realist to understand that I am not someone who could create a game that would be of any value.
You sell yourself short. You could at least be a voice in a game or something, right? I feel like you get a cameo, like we got, Reggie me, but I feel like we need Reggie in Fortnite or something, right?
We
Matt?
look. I could certainly do a voiceover. And be associated that way. Be some sort of iconic mid-level boss in a game, but actually creating a game is just not something I feel that I could do and really satisfy the fans.
I'm surprised actually we haven't had Jonesy from Fortnite, the Reggie icon skin, or I mean everyone's always Reggie for Smash or something, but Nintendo obviously more challenging to probably do that. But I could mid-level boss Reggie. All right, let's see what. It's out there now, so it's up to a developer to get in touch with you and make it happen. But
Exactly,
that would be
exactly.
fun. We got a few minutes left here. I'm like, maybe we should try and bump
I was
someone
going
up
to
and
say
ask a
we
question.
should test out this platform. Don't we have the ability to like
Yeah,
invite someone to speak?
exactly. You can request. So I've got a bunch. I mean, we have hundreds of people who have requested. So I guess we've just got to pick somebody. Do you have the ability to pick someone, Reggie, or should I just pick someone? I don't know how that
I
works.
think you should do it. I'm
Okay.
afraid I'm going to break it if I
Okay.
try and do it.
Well, if you guys have hear all these clicks or everyone requesting, so yeah, let's go through here and find someone. If you have a question for me and or Reggie, we're gonna bump you up to the stage. All right, let's go to. Hold on a sec. I'm gonna add Matt Switter. Matt, you there?
Yes, I am. Yeah, it's
Hey,
good to talk to both of you.
how you doing, Matt? Welcome to our space.
Thank you. Currently, right now, I've had a 200% increase in Twitter users strictly because I'm focusing on where the new consoles are in stock and trying to help people with that. What's your take on that? The kind of the industry kind of struggling. Even GPUs are struggling with that. What's your take on this whole situation that's going on?
So, Matt, great question. First, recognize that when new consoles launch and you're trying to scale your production, it is always a challenge. I can't think of any platform in the first, let's call it 6 months, that has perfectly met demand with supply. It's just incredibly tough to do. And just to put this in perspective, for a launch that's happening, say, in November, production is starting as early as June or July. Computers or video game systems. So there's likely some sort of chip issue that is challenging supply even more. But then, there probably are other COVID-related challenges. The key ports of entry are being inundated and challenged, and it's both with the amount of product coming in from overseas manufacturers, but also the lack of staff. Because again, in a COVID environment, having people who are going to work the docks and drive the trucks is incredibly challenging. So all of these things have come together to create this shortage situation. But I have to say, in my personal experience, come January or February, you're starting to get things, closer to control. And I don't see that happening for the new systems. It seems to me this is going to be a struggle for some period of time.
Especially when we hit Black Friday and Cyber Monday, it's going to happen all over again. Yeah,
Absolutely, and again, that's typical. For those key shopping moments, it's kind of typical that the supply is challenged. But look, at this point in mid-February, and there are always exceptions. The Wii was an exception, and we chased the demand for a long, long time. Switch has had its challenges meeting demand, but you would think it'd be a little bit easier to go into stores and pick up a PS5 or Xbox Series X.
Great. That's really helpful analysis. What I've loved, just to end with this, I'll give more people time. But what I've loved is getting, because I'm helping people out, getting the photos of them picking up the consoles and seeing like their smiling faces. Because we've all been there when a new console came out and it's really hard to get. I was there with the N64 back in the day when I was young. And yeah, that's really the payoff for me of hunting these down is those moments to really, I'm sure you'll agree, enjoying the delight of gamers and seeing them smile. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Great question. All right, now we're going to move to Dr. Sparrow. Are you there, Dr. Sparrow? Oh, no, Dr. Sparrow. All right. Join us. Sarah, are you there?
I am here. Hello. How's it going?
We're going
It's
well.
going great.
Welcome
How are
to the
you?
room.
Great. Just playing some Spiritfarer on my Switch, chilling.
Oh. And talking to Reggie.
And talking to Reggie. So my question is about VR. Reggie, I'd love to get your thoughts on what the future of VR is and how it interacts or will interact with the gaming industry.
So I up until a year ago, I had played every single VR experience. In the last year, because of COVID, I haven't played anything new that's in development or new experiments. But I would say up until a year ago, the biggest challenge with VR was that there wasn't a compelling experience that really motivated me to buy the kit and to jump in, or to be able to show to other developers, here's a great way to make VR an integral part of the overall experience. I just haven't seen it. And until that happens, then it's just tech. It's just another piece of technology that's waiting to be applied. Personally, I think there's a lot more interesting things being done with AR, and obviously there's a lot of proof points for AR, in the gaming space that has really created a bit of a wow experience. And so I think we are still very early on the journey of VR being meaningful to games. There needs to be, a great developer out there that really provides us something that's unique and compelling, and really feels that you've never played that type of way before.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you think there's ever a world in which we're playing essentially like Ready Player One?
I actually do think we're going to get there. I don't know if VR is going to be a key part of it per se, but this concept of the metaverse and all of these connected experiences, I do think we're going to get there, and we're seeing little tidbits today. A huge event in Roblox, for example, or a huge event within the world of Fortnite, for example. There's going to be more of these types of experiences which feel like the metaverse. But for there truly to be a metaverse, it has to be all interconnected. It needs to be like the way the internet is, that it's all interconnected with these experiences that you can have, and you can go from one experience to the next without having any loss of that experience. It's going to come. It's not around the corner, but I do think we're eventually going to get to that place.
Awesome. And one final question, and then I'll pass it on to someone else. You speak about the metaverse. What do you think developers and builders of these products need to think about in terms of the metaverse, in terms of having items that you can transfer from game to game, right? Like having an online inventory that you own. What are some pitfalls or, even just ethical things that maybe they need to think about while building out these products?
I actually believe that companies will figure out the ethical side of things. I think the biggest barrier is what I would call monetization. And here's what I mean by that. You've spent time and money creating something in a world that resembles Roblox. and now you want to go seamlessly to a world that looks like Fortnite. Well, you don't want to leave all of that time and money and energy behind. You need to be able to transfer those economics seamlessly across all of these different worlds. Figuring out that monetization is going to be the key, because obviously the entity where you first created that world is going to want some part of that money. And then as you transfer into the new space, they're going to want part of that money. So figuring that part out is, I think, going to be the biggest barrier, the monetization in going from world to world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time and for your insightful answers.
Great stuff.
Great.
All right. Let's move. Oh, we have another Sarah. Sarah, you there?
Hello.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to chat with you. Where are you calling in from?
I'm currently at Sweden.
In
Oh,
Sweden.
wow. It's late in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean I'm up late these days.
Well,
Hi.
welcome. Thanks for
Uh,
joining us. Do you have a
Thank you.
question
Thank you
for
for the
Reggie?
conver.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like a simple question. I mean, we are all in this together right now in this COVID situation, and I guess we're all been home. So just a simple question: what have you been like playing or doing to get something that's been helping you through these days? Some game.
Mm-hmm. So, look, I have a well-known passion for Animal Crossing, and I still
Mm-hmm.
play that game a lot. I was actually just playing it last night, and I had a meteor shower that made me very happy. Um, I play mobile games. I'm an experimenter, right? So even though I'm not necessarily the target for Roblox, I've been playing a little Roblox just to understand what that's all about. Um, there's a game called Toca Boca. I don't know if you know that. It's, I'm old for that demographic, but it's actually a game that a company that I sit on their board made. This is a game by out of the Spin Master group. So I've been playing that. So I'm an experimenter. I'm playing a lot of different content, but I tend to fall back to games that I know, and so in that sense, Animal Crossing certainly has been my go-to experience when I need to where I need a little sunshine in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think Animal Crossing has been bringing light to everybody these days. It's great fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Sarah. Get
Thank
some
you.
sleep. What
Thank you.
time is it there in Sweden now?
It's a minute away from 2.
Oh my God. All right. Well, get a little rest, and we'll see you back here for our next clubhouse, our spaces, I should say.
I
Right.
was going to say, don't make that mistake again.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
oh, hey, we all know what's going on here. This has been fun. It's great to have, thousands of people with us. All right, let's bring someone more, maybe do a couple more here, Reggie. Let's bring Hunter to the stage. Hunter, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey,
How's
welcome.
it
Where are you
going?
calling in from?
Nashville, Tennessee.
All right. Well, welcome to our space.
How's it going?
Pretty good. What's your
Going
question?
great.
Hi, I just want to ask Reggie one question. Reggie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, could I ask you, have you ever heard of the YouTuber Donkey by chance?
I have.
I just want to know, here's the reason I heard of you, and I'm a big fan of you now, Reggie.
Well,
And
that's great. I constantly get on my Twitter page Dunkey as a recommend that I should follow him, and so maybe I need to do that now. I'm stingy with the follows. I'm really stingy with the follows, but maybe I need to do that
And
now.
he can thank you for that, Hunter. All right, good.
That's
that's
right.
awesome.
Good
You have a
question.
good day.
You too.
Thanks, Hunter. All right. You want to pick someone here? Can you pick someone, Reggie, or no? I don't know how this works.
I
Yeah.
need to. I put
I
my
think
phone down, so now I have to go back.
Okay.
So
Jeff,
I have
you'll
to.
be
I
the
have to.
one.
I
You'll
have
be
to
the one
scroll
picking, Jeff.
through the
Oh,
1,200
I got to
people
pick.
who are
Okay.
listening.
All right.
Correct.
Sounds like I'm the only one that can pick, so I'm gonna have to.
You're in control, huh? This
I
is
was
the
gonna.
only time you're with me that you're in control.
I was gonna say it's like you never know who from your past I can call up to the stage here. Let's see. Let's find someone else here. Let's see. Let's bring. Let's see. The host of the House of Mario, Drew.
Mm.
Drew, you there? Drew, welcome to the stage. You there? Hello, Drew.
Oh, hello. How we going?
Hey,
You cut out there for a bit. How you going?
It's all good. Where are you calling in from, Drew?
I'm calling in from South Australia.
Oh wow! What time's it there?
It's 11:30 during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. I know you guys are doing pretty good with COVID over there, right?
Yeah, no, it's really good over here. Like we're sort of managing it really well, so it's good just to get out and about and sort of have a relatively normal life as it is. How are you guys going over there? I know it's a bit hairy still.
Yeah, it's getting a little better. There's vaccinations are starting to move along. My parents got vaccinated, which I was happy about, and yeah, it's slowly the case numbers are going down. Still, still a serious situation, but yeah, we're hey, more reason to hang out in the spaces safely with everyone. And what's the House of Mario? Tell us about that.
The house. It's a podcast we do with my best friend. We talk about everything Nintendo, and at the moment celebrating 25 years of the Pokemon series, since that's a big series that's really impacted us and our lives and all that going forward. So, yeah, it's a weekly podcast we enjoy doing each week, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Do
Well,
you have
that
a
sounds
question
great.
for Reggie?
Yeah. So the question I got for Reggie is, when you left Nintendo, how much of the stuff or the games and content that come out in the future were you aware of, and has that sort of dried up, or is there some stuff that you're still expecting? I'm not looking for any answer, like secrets or anything, so don't worry about that. But is there still like a big game or something to be announced that you're like is coming and you're looking forward to seeing everyone's reactions?
So right here and now, I'm going to announce this really big game, but not. So I had
Mother 3.
Exactly. That's what I should have done. Geoff, that's what I should have done. I should have announced that Mother 3 is finally coming to the Western markets. No. So I had access and information to the product pipeline pretty much up until 2 years out. So my bank of knowledge at this point is beginning to dry up. And certainly there were games that I was aware of that have not yet come out or been announced. So, that's why Nintendo lawyers have this thing called a business protection agreement that keeps me from breaking all of that news. But, at this point, I really am experiencing the industry just like a fan. I'm a fan that has not yet bought a PS5 or Xbox Series X because I can't find one. And I don't want to abuse my friendship with Phil Spencer and the team over at Sony to get them to send me one, because then I feel compelled that I have to say nice things even when I don't experience nice things. So I'm trying to experience this industry as a consumer and enjoying all of the surprises and lamenting all of the the things that haven't been announced yet or aren't yet here in the marketplace, just like you are. So no big news for me to share. And my knowledge of Nintendo products in the pipeline have pretty much dried up at this point.
Yeah,
Good.
no, that's awesome.
Good question, Drew. All right, thanks. All right, Abby, you there?
Yeah, Geoff, can you hear me?
I can. Welcome to Reggie and I's space. Where are you calling in from?
First off, I really want to thank you, Reggie, Geoff, Rishi, for hosting this today. It's really awesome to see more accessibility for games topics like this.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, so my question was for Reggie, considering future executive leadership. As a fellow marginalized person, I am a woman, and Reggie, as a person of color, if you had any advice or tips and tricks of the trade you could give as someone who's potentially considering maybe someday being an executive or a chief creative officer or maybe even CEO.
Sure. So, the things I would share is, first, you have to make yourself the best version of yourself that you can be, meaning in whatever area you're focused in, you need to be the expert, you need to be the go-to person, you need to be the person that excels in the space. And I say that because when you are part of an underrepresented community, I have to be honest, you have to work harder. You do. And anyone who tells you otherwise is just not being honest. The fact of the matter is that you have to work harder to be recognized. You need to work harder to get the coveted assignment, to get the promotion. And so you need to be prepared to work hard. The next piece I would tell you is you need to find mentors. You need to find people who will help you understand the lay of the land, who will help you understand the unwritten rules, who will help you understand how to navigate all of these challenges, because we face them every single day. And then the last piece of advice I would give you is as you gain success and as you gain traction, you have to look behind you and to help others be successful. All others. You need to be a great resource and a great mentor to that next group that is trying to be successful. I'm passionate that diversity and the diversity of thought and the diversity of opinion and the diversity of experiences adds value to every discussion, to every business decision. And so having the breadth of experiences and knowledge and people in the room is critical. And when I talk about diversity, it is everything. It is sexual orientation, it's color of the skin, it's historical experiences, disabled versus not disabled, veteran versus non-veteran. I mean, it is the broadest definition of diversity, and bringing those voices to bear is just critically important. So those would be just some of the things I would share in terms of lessons I've learned and how I seek to help others be successful in whatever it is that they want to do.
That's awesome. And also to hear about intersectionality of identity, like that's such a strength is really cool to hear. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Good
Thanks,
luck.
Abby. Yeah,
Thank you.
great question.
Have a good day, y'all.
All right. Next. Oh, wait.
Is this last question time?
This is last question. Yep. Oh wait, I thought Kathy was here, but she disappeared. Kathy Dongo was going to ask a question, and then she's not here anymore. So all right, one more. Who's going to be our last question here? Oh my God, tough to pick one. Let's go to Adam. Adam, you there?
Hello.
Hello, Adam.
Hey, Geoff.
Welcome to the space. Where are you calling in from?
I am here in California.
All right. Well, what's your final question for Reggie?
Oh boy, my final question. I guess I'll pose it to both of you.
Okay.
As we're looking forward to a COVID space that's sort of trending to less games coming out. I really want to see you guys' perspective on whether or not we'll be seeing more remasters. I think the Zelda game that's coming out this in July is kind of ramping that up, as well as the announcement of more Mass Effect.
Yeah, great question. I do think you're going to see more of that, and it's obviously there's so many different versions of this, right? There's sort of like the remake, the remaster, we saw today with Final Fantasy VII remake is sort of being like, improved for PlayStation 5. And I don't know. I mean, Reggie, you did a lot of this at Nintendo too. It feels like they're great games that still play great today. And I miss, honestly, a lot of the older games that we just can't play, right, on these systems, and would love to see them, brought forward. So, yeah, I think you are going to see more of that, and only going to continue. But Reggie, what's your take?
I come from this angle. Whenever we were discussing a potential remake, I would always ask the question, what's the objective? Why are we doing this? Is it because we want to add a critical element within the game? Is it that we want to reimagine what this experience could be? Why are we doing this? And so I think it's really important to ask those questions when you look at these remakes. What is it that the company trying to do, and why is it good for the fan base? Sometimes a remake really adds value to the content and really makes it meaningful for the consumer. And those would be the remakes that I would champion and advocate for. But there were times when we would be discussing a remake, and I would challenge the approach because it seemed like we were serving our own purpose and not necessarily serving the purpose of the fans. So I look at this individual game by game. I actually hope that there's not a flood of remakes unless there's real value and real uniqueness being added in. Otherwise, candidly, as a fan, I'm a little disappointed.
Great response, Reggie. Keep the fans in mind, and I want to thank all you guys for joining us here in our Twitter space. I think it has to be verified, but I think this might have been the biggest Twitter space yet. It's just brand new, and I appreciate Rishi you inviting Reggie and I to break some new ground on this. This has been really, really fun, and I definitely think I'm going to do more of these in the future. So hopefully you guys will join us again. You have fun, Reggie?
I had fun. I enjoyed this. I look forward to experimenting more with this format.
Absolutely. Rishi, thanks for inviting us. And Spaces, I know, is just going to keep rolling out, right? So a bunch of people said to me, on Twitter, they, will be on desktop or Android. Obviously, this is kind of a new product just starting to roll out. So we're looking forward to doing more of it in the future. And I really appreciate you inviting us by, Rishi.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Geoff. Thank you so much, Reggie. It's an honor to have you all on today and to speak about so many different things. Reggie, you certainly flexed on all of us by talking about the name of your boat and just even having a boat. So shout out to that.
He didn't tell you how big it was, though.
So maybe what I need to do is run a Twitter poll on what should be the name of my next boat.
Yes. Well, what are the 4 options going to be? Do we know?
I don't know. First I have to place the order for the new boat, and then I have to give it some thought as to what the options should be. But I think that's going to be a nice future experiment.
I'm sure we'll let the fans know. Name Reggie's boat coming soon.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks, Reggie. Thanks, Rishi. Thanks to everyone for listening in from around the world. This has been a ton of fun. And yeah, obviously follow Reggie at Reggie. Follow me, Geoff Keighly, and we'll have more spaces coming soon for you. So have a great night or morning or wherever you are in the world, and we'll talk again soon.
That's great. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.